Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Interceptor. It's a movie starring people I've never heard of. So, as always, I'm going to do the good, the bad, and the furry. To start off the furry, there isn't any. Moving on to the good and the bad. So this movie is a Netflix movie and has somehow been in the top 10 for at least 3 weeks this year. And I don't fucking know how that's possible. I watched this movie because I was like, okay, it looks actiony, and it's been at the top 10 for at least 3 weeks. So, clearly it must be some level of quality. And I feel it is my public service announcement duty to tell you that, nah, bro, this ain't it. Whew, okay. So, this movie is fucking terrible, and I'm going to explain to you why. To start off with, the plot of this movie is that there's some interceptor missile system out in the middle of the Pacific that is that, and then something up in Alaska is like the only thing stopping nuclear missiles from being able to reach the U.S. Like there are only interceptor missiles. And there's terrorists or whoever trying to, they stole some missiles from Russia, and then they're trying to take out the anti-missile capability of the U.S. so that the Russian missiles can launch onto the U.S. and take everything out. Which is, I mean, the premise, okay, sure, a little hard stretch to believe that like you could coordinate that at the same time, but whatever. But like, it starts off where she's battling some dude, and I'm sorry, before it even gets to that, they're in the hallway, and this lighting is absolutely terrible. The bokeh effect is just super fake looking, and they have, like, it's just, it looks like it was shot on a home video for this hallway, and there is a lot of time spent in this fucking hallway. Okay, and so then, like, her CO just immediately goes like, I'm gonna do some dumb shit, and then gets killed immediately, so she has to be the brave one to stop all the things, and she gets in this firefight, and then some big, like, Russian-y, like, you know, like, that dude comes in, and she has this, like, really drawn-out fight that was just really, it was a tough sell, but sure, I was giving it a chance at that point still, but the dude is carrying sulfuric acid for no reason other than to dissolve the Glock that drops. Like, oh no, it fell in the acid. Gosh, can't use that gun anymore. Like, bitch, it was in there for 5 seconds. You can pick that shit up and still use it to, you know, protect national security or whatever. And then, like, so she locks both the doors, and then they go and get some, like, fucking blowtorches, and they're cutting their way in, and so she starts to, like, estimate how long it'll be before they get in. And it's like, skipping ahead some, they eventually make their way through, but it takes them, you know, about half an hour or so, as she predicted. But the thing is that instead of cutting, like, either a small, like, arm-size hole, like, I could understand maybe not cutting the arm-size hole to, like, reach in, but instead of just cutting, like, a tiny man's, like, I can squeeze through to unlock things, they cut literally the entire door off. Like, you know how much longer it took you to take that much blowtorching? You only did that because the door clearly was a set piece that you just wanted to hang down. So, and then her whole story is like, she's like, oh, she accused some general of sexual, like, I don't think you understand how the U.S. military works nowadays if you made this movie. Because there ain't no way in hell some fucking however many star general is doing shit in his fucking office and somebody accuses him of some shit and they just straight up fucking don't believe her. Not a chance in the world. And then you also have the fact that, like, then the other military people, like, vandalize her room because they're like, slut and all these other things. Like, no, I don't buy that for a fucking second. That doesn't make any sense at all. And then, and I'm gonna skip around a lot because there's so many things in this movie that piss me off. She literally tells a guy not to mansplain before she tells she literally says, don't mansplain to me. Like, okay, I love badass chicks, but you don't need to say mansplain to show that you're a badass chick, okay? And that guy wasn't even really, it was so dumb. And then she goes on this, like, incredibly long list of things that you shouldn't call a girl before, like, headbutting this guy in the face. Like, why did he let her go on like that? That doesn't make any sense at all, other than just just to, preach to the audience. Like, that clearly wasn't to the character, it was to the audience. And, like, again, I love badass chick movies. Like, there are so many good examples of badass chicks. And then there's shitty examples that are just trying for no reason. So, like, Guy Ladriel in fucking The Rings of Power, terrible, because the actress was always talking like this to try and be strong. And no, you didn't. Frickin' the actual Galadriel from Lord of the Rings was badass motherfucker without having to, like, pretend and lower her voice. There's a tempest in me. Bullshit. So, but in this, she just, they try way too hard to make her the badass person. So, like, the only other guy that's in there is a weakling little bitch who can't even pick up, like, he can't even fire a shotgun. And speaking of the shotgun fight, which, again, I really hope that you haven't and aren't going to watch this movie, but there's a fight where she's fighting with some dude, and, like, she knocks over a fridge, and they rotate the fridge between one angle and the other, where, like, the door is even open and closed. Like, it's so obvious. I generally don't look for continuity errors, but they literally use the fridge later for a thing. And then they use it again later for another thing. Like, if you're going to pay that much attention to a fridge in the middle of a command center, you need to get the take right and the continuity correct. And and these bad guys are able to get sulfuric acid in there. They're able to find blowtorches for this thing, but they are somehow not able to smuggle explosives. Like, they have, like, auto guns. Like, they have all of this firearm power and all these other things, but for some reason can't bring explosives in to actually get access to the room. And just, the bad guy, he wants to kill... He threatens to take out, like, 10 U.S. cities or whatever. That would kill... He estimates 300 million people. There are only, like, 330 million people in the U.S. So if you kill 90% of the population, I don't know what you're expecting to happen to the currency value, but it's probably not going to go up. And I say that to him, who thinks that this is just going to be, like, a good thing for him. And then also for his little fucking buddy, who is the traitor guy, who of course is a white guy, who's kind of racist, and, sounds like an asshole, and is Southern, like, of course, sure, fine, sure, whatever. And then he's like, I get $10 million out of this. Again, what do you think the currency is going to be worth when the population of the U.S. is down 90%? That doesn't make any sense. And then they keep on cutting back to Chris Hemsworth, and I kept on wondering, why the fuck are they cutting back to Chris Hemsworth? At first I thought it was Brad Pitt because I was like, oh, long hair and kind of... But no, it's fucking Chris Hemsworth. It's Fat Thor. And I was just like, why? I don't care about random Circuit City knockoff guy who's playing either a combination of Fat Thor and Ghostbusters. Like, I don't care. I liked those two characters individually. They do not matter for this plot at all. And then I watched the credits. He's an executive producer. So he clearly had some money in, and he's not even credited as an actor or a part in the acting part of this. So... I guess he just really was passionate about this. Another thing is, so they eventually contact the White House, and they're having this, like, back and forth. And why are all of the cameras in universe so shitty? Like, the connection between her and the White House and every single, like, security camera is, like, 360p black and white. Like, what the fuck? And speaking of the cameras, why do all the bad guys always hold the camera so that it's looking up their nose? Like, how is the down-up camera angle, like, how is that the angle that you're trying to portray yourself to the world whenever you're making, like, whatever fucking videotape you're making? Like, nobody does that. Nobody. People know better how to take videos. Like, you don't do the upward angle. Just, yeah. And then, like... They of course, when they're, like, firing around, when she finally gets a hold of a machine gun thing, like, she somehow manages not to kill the bad guy, but she does shoot somebody else, and then, like, the weakling dude finally gets his gumption up and goes and tries to help out, and then of course he dies, but, heroically. And then of course, like, she has to, like, she could have just shot the female character, like the bad female character, but instead she decides to fight the female character one-on-one so they can have their, like, chick fight where she kicks the chick's ass in a way that doesn't really make much sense. Like, I don't buy the, like, expando glue thing somehow getting all in her immediately. Like, you just spit that shit out and move. Like, come on. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you have the fact that, like, how did she survive so many bullets? Like, everybody else that gets shot is like one bullet, but badass chick who is bad somehow survives multiple bullet wounds. And yeah, so, and he like, speaking of not badass characters, though, like the bitch dude somehow gets knocked out for 10 minutes from one punch from Hick guy. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And like they're broadcasting on this emergency channel, but she somehow like sees something and then they manage to block it. Like none of that makes any sense. And she's like, you can come and take this from me over my cold dead corpse to get in here when that is happening. So she knows that like she's gonna go down sinking with this ship to take anything out, and that she knows that if she lets any of them in, they will destroy however many cities that they have missiles for, which I think was like 16 or something. But then they show her video of like, we have your dad hostage, and you're like, and then she like immediately was like, no, the final douche one, like, no way in hell, because she doesn't know where those 16 cities are getting targeted. Like, her dad could have been in any one of the cities that he didn't list them before he got there. So she is just like willing to let however many, like she's willing to go down to keep people from getting killed. But then suddenly when her dad is in danger, she's like, okay, I'll let you in to save my dad from, maybe he's still in the city that you're going to get. Like, it doesn't, it's dumb. It's dumb. And of course the bad guy is a freaking trust fund guy. Of course he's a trust fund baby who just doesn't appreciate things and is like, oh, the military made me bad. And just, it's just so frustratingly stupid that like, yeah. And there's this one instance where there's a bad guy and she gets like, they're seconds from breaking in and she somehow scurries into this like flame retardant suit. You know how they use for like movies where there's just like a flamethrower going and they have like the silver reflective thing on. So she gets into that and then they're trying to find her and this guy's like turned around away from one of those silver suits. So she like somehow unhooks herself and walks over behind him in this definitely super silent, not at all crinkly suit. And then, you know how there's a whole bunch of nice big fat arteries on the front of our necks? Well, she somehow takes like a scalpel and just chips the back of his neck and he immediately is just like, death. Like, okay, sure, yeah, that makes a whole bunch of sense. And then there's another instance where they, like, there's some fucking just hole in the floor, like there's a port that they open in the floor that just leads straight down into the water. I don't buy that for a second. There's no reason to have that port there like that. And then you don't find out for like 3/4 more of the movie how some fucking guy was able to get up there, because they do a far away shot after the guy gets in and there's no like evident ladder, there's no platform, there's nothing. You're like, how did he just hoverboard his way in there? And it's not until 3/4 way through the film that you finally see these tiny little hand rungs. And oh, by the way, guess what? Not only does she use those, but she uses those one-handed because she got like shot or something over here. So she like, I'm totally by the climbing the stairs one-handed. But then there's literally like monkey bars really far across that she has to one hand, which I don't buy for a second that she would be able to do that. And then to make it even stupider, there's a gap, so she has to like swing and then like release with a swinging motion to basically do a long jump to grab onto the other thing. And she magically fucking does that. And oh, by the way, she started this long, arduous journey up this like 11 stories or some shit ladder when there was like, I think less than a minute left on the timer of doom. And they go, you know, they tried to up the ante even more, because you know how in most movies they don't actually stop at 1 second left. Yeah, there's a couple of infamous instances of that happening, but for the most part, no, they aren't actually doing that. But then in this one, she doesn't even stop it at 1 second. She stops it at like 0.53 seconds. I'm the best. I stopped at 0.53 seconds. It's so dumb. And oh, by the way, the guy that like broke in through the portal, they decide to toss his body out. Like, they know that they're only going to be there for a couple hours before the Navy SEALs shows up, but for some reason they're like, yeah, no, we need to toss this body out that's probably filled with evidence and identifying things. He's dead, but yeah, let's toss him out of this portal of doom into the ocean of whatever. It's just, it was dumb. It was dumb. Oh, and then, like, the hick guy that she's fighting on the roof, like, first of all, this roof is fucking gigantic because it's a fucking roof to house all these missiles and everything else. That dude is up there for like 15 seconds before he's like, she's not up here. So then they start looking for her in her little like fire retardant outfit. But on top of that, she like somehow gets razor wire around his neck, and he's like, razor wire's not gonna stop me. So she like jumps off the end and like drags them both over so that like since it's wrapped around his head and she like holds onto it, it decapitates him. Like the decapitation, I totally buy. But like it's fucking razor wire. Just wrapping it around his head and doing like boop would definitely already cause all that artillery bleeding that I was telling you about earlier, but from the front. So if it had been barbed wire, I could have been like, okay, maybe the little point things are like not at the right exact spot. I could totally, but no, it's fucking razor wire. You are dead, man. You are dead. So yeah, there's just a whole bunch of instances of just nothing making any sense in this movie, and the fight scenes were terribly choreographed. Everything was super connived. Like the bad guy was a rich white guy, and he had a chip on his shoulder about some stupid bullshit. His friend was a white hick who was kind of racist and sexist, and then the good guy was a wimpy little bitch who was not white and Hindu, and but then he still was a noble guy to just fight over it and still do the thing. But then she had to save everybody, do all the things. And oh, by the way, just for good measure, the president was a female president because sure, yeah, let's just like it's like they took everything that they were like, hey, what can we do to pander horribly to female empowerment? It's like I love Chris Hemsworth. I do. He is an excellent actor, and it's fun to watch him in movies. But I don't know why he executively produced this movie, because this movie seems like it was made by somebody who doesn't actually understand, like, or appreciate anything that is woman. They just like, I just didn't buy it. It was so just so over, like, pushy in your face with the message, and with just an overall shitty surrounding. And oh, by the way, like, basically the only set that they had was just the command room, the little hallway, and then they probably, even just with how shitty the cameras were for the presidential office, probably just reused the command center too, with like a couple of exterior shots. So yeah, this movie was garbage, just absolutely garbage. Two thumbs way down. Skip this. I hate it. It's dumb. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you the next one. Bye.